I wouldn't know. I've never seen your home.
I don't see this.
But
I mow grass and trim the weeds.
that's what my husband does. Although he tries to get his finger in there from time to time.
So who's up there next
My
week?
husband tries to put his finger in the decorating opinion from time to time. And I tell him the landscaping, the garage, the basement, but the kitchen. I buy it. Oh, I bet you got in trouble. And you thought she was going to be so happy, didn't you?
I did. I thought I
Was
had
it
done
like
well.
some kind of naga hide plaid thing?
It was a plaid.
Yeah, I know it. See?
What was that?
See that?
Oh, I see. You see.
Never made it in the house.
Is that in your man cave now?
No, it was given away.
Donated.
I got the chair.
Oh, okay.
Because it was like a brown microfiber leather with Bronco pliers. That's neutral enough on the state that.
In the basement. Yeah. How's her back?
Hey, Scott.
She's doing great. She's she's doing really well.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking at this. These are all this one column says.
And my husband was like, why?
Exactly. I thought that.
I have the same issue. I know what you're talking about. It causes, it's hard on you. It's nothing, you know. Yeah, I get it. You don't have to detail. I know. It's right. It's all right in here, you know. And it's definitely a burden.
I think that honestly has a lot to do with like issues.
My good friend has the same.
I think it's my husband. So I mean that's why they don't want to. What's that?
It'll be great because
You can say that I surely cannot.
well, as our business modeling, you know what I mean?
I understood.
Oh, is it 14 million?
Shall we call the meeting to order? You guys ready to start? I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask that roll be called, please.
Feldman? Here. Holzhauser? Here. Humbles?
Here.
Smith? Here. Tyra?
Here.
Wagenbach?
Here.
Wisdom?
I'd like to ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Our first order of business is a public hearing for the FY24 budget. May I please have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wisdom. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Holzhauser? Aye. Humbles?
Aye.
Smith? Aye. Tyra?
Aye.
Wagenbach?
Aye.
Wisdom?
Aye.
Feldman?
Aye.
Motion carried, 6:02 p.m. Is there anyone who'd like to address the board regarding the FY24 budget? Seeing none, may I please have a motion to close the public hearing?
I move to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Mrs. Holzhauser. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Humbles?
Aye.
Smith? Aye. Tyra?
Aye.
Wagenbach?
Aye.
Wisdom?
Aye.
Feldman?
Aye.
Holzhauser? Aye.
Motion carried. 6:03 p.m. Next order of business is a public hearing for the use of health life safety funds for the Dunlap Valley Middle School. May I please have a motion to open the public hearing?
I motion to open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra.
I'll second.
Seconded by
Mr. Wagenbach.
Mr. Wagenbaugh. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Smith? Aye. Tyra?
Aye.
Wagenbach?
Aye.
Wisdom?
Aye.
Motion carried, 6:03, again, PM. Is there anyone who would like to address the board regarding the use of health life safety funds for Dunlap Valley Middle School? Seeing none, may I please have a motion to close the public hearing?
I move to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Wagenbaugh. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Tyra,
Aye.
Wagenbach,
Aye.
Wisdom,
Aye.
Feldman,
Aye.
Olshauser, Humbles,
Aye.
Smith.
Motion
Aye.
carried. I'm sorry. Anyone else? Okay. Motion carried, 6:04 PM. Can you read that? Mrs. Wagenbaugh. Got it. Okay, thank you. Board will now move on to public participation portion of the meeting, and as always, we start with Dr. Dearman and the superintendent's report. Dr. Dearman.
Yeah, take it.
There we go. All right, first item of business, we had two FOIAs this month. Both have been completed by Mr. McKenzie. First item, Monday of this week, we had an accidental lockdown at Dunlap High School. That was initiated via our app on the phone. First of all, it's unfortunate it happened. It created a lot of havoc, chaos, traumatic in some situations. And I certainly appreciate the way Mrs. Caslett especially handled the situation and took charge. So thank you for that. Thank you to your staff and for the students, because they did follow protocol. They did what they were supposed to do. With that being said, I've been in communication with Informacast. We now have a two-step authentication, which we've been asking for almost a year now, in place, so that hopefully these accidental butt dials that we've run across will not happen again, or be very difficult for that to happen, because now there's an option. Do you want to send this, yes or no? And you have to select that option and then hit send on top of opening it and hitting the button. So there's like 4 or 5 things that would have to happen for that to get triggered. Also had training today with Informacast. I had them in. They met with Kevin Etheridge and Mandy Ellis, went through our phone systems and some of the things that we did learn that didn't work the way that we wanted to get those fixed, and then also to provide training on the application itself. So we have 2 people that we can go to for software support in-house. With that being said, this has actually been in the works scenarios, and we as an admin team kind of, under his guidance, talk about how we would potentially respond in these unfortunate situations and learn from that, and then we can tweak our crisis management plan within the situation. I also had a phone call today with Jason Marks. We are going to be hosting in what they call active assailants drill for the entire area. We did this 3 or 4 years ago, 2 years ago. You're saying 4, Mr. Feldman's saying 2. So I'll go 3, we're in the middle, but it's been a while. We were the host, and that is good because it gets law enforcement in our building and familiar with our campus. It is primarily at the high school, but it is our largest attendance center. And then secondly, along with that, staff have asked for some training or to be part of that. So we're trying to coordinate with all the different agencies, including Peoria, the city of Peoria Police, so that we can do some of this not when students are here, but when staff is here, so they can get an idea of what this may feel like, heaven forbid, we're in that situation. Next piece of information, the bus situation has not really improved as far as number of drivers. We're working on it. Some people have really stepped up. We've got 2 people sitting at the end of the row. Mr. Hess has his bus driver permit, 8 days for tests.
Wow.
Try and help out. So that's above and beyond the duty. It's needed. It's stepped up. Thank you. But we've had an unfortunate situation at the bus farm for COVID. positive things, a lot of good things happening, not only, within the high school, but, all the other schools. It's a good positive feel. We've got some exciting new leadership in some places. Our sports teams are doing well, really across all levels. That's always exciting and good to know. Congrats to Dr. Hastings. She had a special ed, open house last night, and I heard nothing but good things. We did around 60 people attend that, a couple board members. So positivity on special ed. I'm really happy. Especially appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Some other things, the U.S. News and World Report rankings. I've talked about that a little bit already. I just got online to do a little research today. Because people always like to compare Dunlap to some of the other schools we go to. Not only athletically, but academically. Some of the ones that we're normally compared to are like North Washington and more. So I kind of looked them up to get a feel. Where are we at nationally ranked in comparison to these schools? Nationally ranked, Dunlap is 1441 nationally across all 50 states. Horton 2387. Washington 2602. Metamora 3317. And I didn't really continue through any of the other schools because I didn't really think it was necessary. Those are the three most common comparisons to my opinion. But some of the other non-conference schools that sometimes I look at as a measuring stick, one is Muhammad, down by Champaign. They're 1751. Again, we were 1441. Pontevedra High School by Rockford, Rockton area, 1536. And then another school, actually some of our people go there, Huntley, they were 2968. Again, we're 1541. So lots of good things going, and sometimes we need to toot our own horn a little bit because the negativity seems to find its way into life quite often. But again, some good news there. The last thing I really want to touch on is there's a budget that's going to be presented to the Board of Education tonight. I've talked with the board members, I've got the feedback, and they have a concern, and rightfully so, we all do, of the date this budget is being presented. Mr. McKenzie presented last month's information. The board's going to be asked to approve that tonight. And really, I just really want to kind of talk about what a budget is very quickly and what it isn't. Basically, what a budget is it's the Illinois State Board of Education saying you just got a big old pot of money. What's your plan? You have to have a plan. And you have to submit that. It used to be through a portable, now it's going to be through Iowa, but you have to submit that. And they added a new tab this year for evidence-based funding that I'm sure Mr. McKenzie can go into more detail, but it's a new one this year. For whatever reason, I won't get into why I think it's there, but it's there. And for the first time, I had a superintendent's meeting today at CIT region. There's about 44 superintendents in the room. Superintendents are getting their budgets rejected if they don't fill in that evidence-based funding tab correctly. That never happens. The concern I have is the budget needs to be adopted tonight. There's a timeline associated with it. If it's not adopted, it won't hurt the levy or anything else. What it will hurt is when we submit for grants and evidence-based funding, we have to show that we have a budget, we have a plan in place. The budget can be amended at any time. So when this budget is presented tonight, I know there are board members that are not happy with it and they want to see it tweaked and refined, and we can certainly do that at any time. But I'm asking the board if you would approve the budget, knowing there's work to be done. Let's talk about that and define what that may look like. I've got some ideas, Mr. McKenzie has some ideas. But in the meantime, if we don't do that, we may run into some problems with our grants, our federal, our state funding, and our evidence-based, what used to be general state. So that's kind of just a 10,000 view of the budget. Mr. McKenzie can give much more detail if needed. Dr. Humble says the last thing on my report.
Thank you, Dr. Dearman. Appreciate it. And thank you to our administrators getting bus license. That's above and beyond. We appreciate it. And thank you for the positive special ed night. So, appreciate it. This time, we'll move on to public comments. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board? If so, please raise your hand. Seeing none, This concludes the public participation portion of the meeting, and the board will now move on to information discussion items. The school activity accounts reports are included in the packet. Is there any discussion? The 23-24 administrator and teacher salary reports have been included in the board packet. Is there any discussion? And that will be updated on the school website, correct?
It's required by law, correct?
Thank you. Information regarding the semi-annual review of unreleased closed session minutes is included in the board packet. Is there any discussion? Information regarding a 2024 bus purchase proposal has been included in the board packet. Is there any discussion? The information regarding the Dunlap High School football spring training trip is included in the board packet.
Softball.
I'm sorry, softball. Is there any discussion? Did I say baseball? Football, okay, I'm sorry.
There was more than one question about transportation on that. The district is not paying for transportation. The coach is taking one of the activity buses and driving that bus.
Wow, okay, thank you. Information regarding the Dunlap High School out-of-state culinary opportunity is included in the board packet. Is there any discussion? This concludes the information discussion items, and the board will now move on to the consent agenda. Is there any discussion regarding items on the consent agenda? May I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move that.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wisdom. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried, 6:16 p.m. The board will now move on to action items. The bill list, treasurer's report, and district investment report is included in the board packet. May I please have a motion to approve payment of the bills?
I move to approve payment of the bills in the amount of $4,836,493.20 as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Holzhauser. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Wagner.
Aye.
Wisdom.
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye.
Holzhauser. Aye. Humbles.
Aye.
Smith. Aye. Tyler.
Aye.
Motion carried. Information regarding the resolution of property tax appeals included in the board packet. May I please have a motion to approve the resolutions?
I move to approve the resolutions for property tax appeals presented.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra. Is there a second?
Second.
Is that Mrs. Smith? Thank you. Any discussion?
I have to step away from that.
Oh, fine. Okay, thank you.
I wouldn't mind knowing, do we ever see results on these? I mean, I was asked before, but
How many are successful?
is it hard to get that answer? How many, do you see the results on these, or how many wins?
Are they ever successful on their appeals?
I could get a report, I mean, some of them are successful, we do a lot, I get, that we fight, and they end up going to the state and going through that whole process. Sometimes we just negotiate a settlement, for us, trying to avoid some of the legal costs of doing a protracted fight. Sometimes we fight them quite a bit, we get appraisals and the whole thing. We use Miller Hall Triggs attorneys to help me manage that whole process.
I mean, do you think
We
our,
had a lot recently.
do we have a net gain, or after all your expenses, or what do you think? Are we wasting our time? I'd be curious.
Sometimes we win outright, sometimes a lot of times it's somewhere in the middle. The boards encourage sometimes to, come to the middle somewhere. But yeah,
We'll do this. We'll get it with Miller Hall and Triggs and get a report. Generally, it's a compromise situation where they came in, we're gonna lowball it, we're only gonna pay this, and we're like, no, you're not, and then we negotiate and we meet somewhere.
It's worth the lawyer time that we're doing.
Yes, because these are big ticket items.
I'm on the other side of the fence.
So we'll get a list of that to you.
Okay, I didn't mean to pin you down. I'm just
No, I think
curious.
that's a good question. I mean, I'd like to know what the results are.
they're always for something over $100,000 difference. So we did, you usually don't get involved a lot, it's billions of dollars that they want to reduce. So it's a game they play, certain attorneys are super aggressive, and so we fight those. Sometimes, some of them are just putting out feelers
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Appreciate the information. Earlier this evening, the board held a public hearing regarding the fiscal year '24 budget. At this time,
You didn't vote on that.
oh, I'm terribly sorry. Let's vote.
Wisdom,
Aye.
Olshauser. Aye. Humbles,
Aye.
Smith,
Yes.
Tyra,
Aye.
Wagonbaum.
Motion carried. Earlier this evening, the board had a public hearing regarding the fiscal year '24 budget. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the adoption of the budget.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra. Any discussion?
We're hoping for that adjustment.
Okay. Mrs. Holzhauser?
I have a question, and I think I know the answer, Mr. McKenzie, but I'm gonna ask anyway.
Let's go here, so I can hear better.
Okay,
Down here, this room is acoustics are terrible, so
and I know time for that. IMRF,
I remember social security insurance.
yes, so that showed 426,000 in the deficit. Is that because we've changed that because there's been so much in reserves, is that correct?
Yeah, you can only use that money for, what you levy it for, that's the only thing you do, so we lowered that rate, that levy a couple of
Correct.
years ago with the intention of, burning through some of those funds.
Okay, perfect, so,
That was all planned.
so with that being said, if we're 2.5, so that brings us down to pretty much 2, right? Another question I have for you, and I would've got this too earlier, but supplies and materials went up from last month from, looks like 14,000 to 294. Do you know what that was? Big bump?
Education fund.
Oh, no, torn. It was in torn.
A lot of it's, we added a lot of grants. When I did the tentative budget, we didn't have IDEA or the IDEA grant, and so I started adding some of those in, so. Where, when you have a grant like that, the revenues equal the expenses, so it raised some revenues, but it also raised the, federal.
Okay, but for expenditures, right? Am I reading this right?
So if you get a grant for 100,000, you have to spend 100,000 more in your budget.
This purchase services was 355 and it went down to 88.
Yeah, you're under expenditures.
Okay. All right.
Did that delta go up though, Mike, to Teresa's point that, the expense went up, but you're saying the grant covered on the revenue side, we just have to spend it. But the variance or the delta didn't increase by some exorbitant amount that we're in the hole now for that, right? You made it up with the grant money that you put in on the other side.
There just were a couple grants that were not accepted by the state or were in the process and everything, when I intended to budget, that I kind of added into final budgets. We still didn't have ESSER 3 in this budget, but that's in the process of being, but yeah, so there's always a little bit of that added in, but the revenue equaled the expenses.
Okay.
I think Mrs. Holzhauser brings up a really good point, though, in that the overall right now is about 2.5, roughly $500,000 was trying to deplete that IMRF Social Security, which is really overinflated and needs to be brought down. So I have no problem with that. Mr. McKenzie knows finance well, but we've all been trained. We've sat in that chair and done finance. You overestimate expenditures and you underestimate revenues, because what absolutely cannot happen, because we've had it happen here and we know the result of that, is come in at the end of the year and say, oh, you know what, I thought we were gonna be, break even and, we're about $4 million in the hole. That does not resonate well. It resonates much better if we come in like we did last year. Oh, we thought it was gonna do this, but we're much better. It's easy to explain the better than the opposite of that. So, and Mike's very conservative in his projections. He's assuming every position is filled. I pray that it is, but it won't be. It won't be. It just can't be.
Yeah, if you look at our tentative budget last year to our final results, it was $1.1 million better in the final results than the budget in operating.
can we tighten the belt? Yes, we can do more.
This is not acceptable, it's not sustainable long term. I mean, luckily, this district has very fund balance before this, and we're gonna have very strong fund balance afterwards. It is something we need to spend a lot of time this year controlling, and sure trying to whittle that down through, I think so.
I think the,
Part of that is gonna be, could be solar panels to help with our utility bills and things like that.
I think the concern on the part of being a board member, and I've sat in that seat, I've developed a budget for over 9 years, and yes, you do estimate your expenditures, because you never want to say, oh my goodness, we spent far more than we anticipated. But I think the issue is passing a deficit budget. And even though we may not come in such a deficit, it appears that not just to the public, but also sometimes to teachers, for those of us who sit and negotiate, and I'm able to say that, those of us who sit and negotiate, it makes it seem like we're not being honest that we have a deficit budget and then we come in at the end of the year and we don't. And so, I think that's the concern. Why can't we be a little bit more accurate? Why can't we have a budget that's not in deficit? Because we know if we continue to have a deficit budget, as Teresa has said many times, and many of us have, 10 years of that, you're going through your reserves quite quickly. So I think that's just the issue. And it was difficult for me when I first sat on this board. There was a time when I didn't vote yes because it was a deficit budget. And so it's maybe a little bit more difficult to do in a larger district. In a smaller district, there wasn't a lot of room for error, so I never passed or proposed a deficit budget. But hopefully in the future, that philosophy can maybe change a little bit so that we could be a little more accurate. Is that now correct me if I'm wrong, but is that the position of the board, those of you that have called me and have had a little bit of a concern about a deficit budget? Okay.
And I hear you about the whole late games with the numbers.
Sure.
One way or the other, going into the negotiation year, there's always that expectation out there. We're not going into the negotiation year anyway, so that's certainly.
But still, it looks bad if they say, for 3 years in a row, you've claimed you're gonna have a deficit budget, and the bottom line is you've got all this money in reserve. And so, I don't wanna appear to be playing a game, and I know you don't either. I understand the philosophy. I understand a lot of superintendents and business officials, that's just the way it's done. But sitting on the board is just kind of hard to say that, oh gosh, for the 3rd year in a row, we're gonna pass a deficit budget. And so I think that's a concern, and I don't need that's just my explanation from what I've heard from other board members. You do a great job. I'm just saying that that's their concern, so. Anyone else have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment too.
Sure.
Abby, and this was prior to you, Mike, so I mean, just since I've been on the board several years, we've had instances where, we've had to have those tough conversations because, the budget we were predicting a $5 million deficit, I believe, where we came in at a $2 million surplus. So we just gotta be very careful there, just like Abby said, when we're taking a look at that, keep tweaking that as we go through the year, the months to see where we're at, so.
Yeah, we'll do that. I did that last year for you, and Dr. Niemer's right. I am conservative about things. I put in here that we're gonna have a 7% increase in property tax. Counties right now are predicting closer to 8%. So hopefully property taxes, not necessarily for my own personal checkbook, but for the school district, I hope it's closer to that 8%. Things like interest. I was
we have two boilers that go out, or an air conditioning unit above the swimming pool, whatever.
We have capital, the capital projects fund, we pay for some of that stuff. The 800,000 square feet of buildings we have, you know, just like your house, things break, so we're going to have capital improvements.
Well, thank you. We do have a motion and a second, so could we please have a roll call vote and then we can,
Before we get to that, I just wanna, Dr. Dimon, you're asking us pass this budget because we need to, but we're gonna do one of two things. We're gonna monitor this, and if the situation, is demonstrating that it's better than it looks, all's fine. If it's not, we may have to amend it. Probably this board will probably want to amend the budget, so we're not $2.5 million in the red at the end of this year.
Okay.
Correct?
Yeah, that's fine. And I'll work with Mr. McKenzie and bring forth some recommendations, either November or December around levy time, to maybe look at maybe some long-term plans, or some ideas anyway.
thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Feldman,
Aye.
Olshauser. Aye. Humbles,
Aye.
Smith. Aye. Tyra,
Aye.
Wagonbach,
Aye.
Wisdom.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Information regarding the resolution for health life safety funds to be used for the boiler replacement at Dunlap Valley Middle has been included in the board packet. May I have a motion to approve the resolution?
I move to approve the resolutions for health, life, safety as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wisdom. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Olshauser. Aye. Humbles,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Tyra,
Aye.
Wagonbach,
Aye.
Wisdom,
Aye.
Feldman.
Thank you. Information regarding the press 112 recommended update board policy has been included in the board packet and has been reviewed by Mrs. Smith and Dr. Dearman. May I please have a motion to approve the board policy updates? I'll make a motion to approve the board policy updates as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Wagenbaugh. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Humbles,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Tyra,
Aye.
Wagonbach,
Aye.
Wisdom,
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye.
Olshauser.
Motion carried. Thank you, Mrs. Smith, for taking that on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Approval of the 2023-24 snow removal contract is included in the board packet. May I have a motion to approve the contract if there aren't any questions?
Move to approve the contract as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Wisdom. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Any further discussion?
Got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Who's this with again? Because it's not here on the contract. The contractor's left blank on this contract.
This is Carmody?
Yeah.
Is it Carmody?
No.
Or, yeah, Jim, yeah. Carmody
Jim
is,
or something.
Jim, yeah.
Yep, yep.
Carmody's our lawnmowers.
That's what, I wanted to make sure because the contractor's left blank on this contract.
They do have snow removal too. though.
Is it on here? Is it on this contract? Can you
No.
see? It's not listed?
I don't think it was in here.
I remember him
Is that contract included in this?
Oh, yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
Here.
Was it not mentioned on the action item?
That's blank.
It's blank. Okay, well, we'll make sure you get that
Tim Wagenbach.
filled in. Thank you very much. Motion carried. Roll call vote.
Smith?
I'm sorry, roll call vote so we can see if the motion carried.
No, not yet. We're doing it now. Smith?
Aye.
Tyra,
Aye.
Wagonbach,
Aye.
Wisdom,
Aye.
Feldman,
Aye.
Olshauser. Humbles.
Aye. Motion carried. Information regarding the appointment of a residency hearing officer has been included in the board packet. May I please have a motion to approve Dr. Scott Dearman as a residency hearing officer? And I believe he did explain that to us in his podcast. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve Dr. Scott Dearman as the residency hearing officer.
Thank you, Mr. Wagenbaugh. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Tyra,
Aye.
Wagonma,
Aye.
Wisdom,
Aye.
Feldman,
Aye.
Olshauser. Aye. Humbles,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye. Motion carried. Information regarding the renewal of the Clear Batch Residency Verification Contract has been included in the board packet. May I have a motion to approve that contract?
I believe that's a service that has dramatically paid for itself over the past 2 years, so I'll be happy to move to approve the contract as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Holzhauser, Mr. Wisdom was first, and thank you to our district secretary for implementation of that program.
That price went up, didn't it? Did that price go up on that from the original?
A little bit, was it an
It
extra,
did go up a little bit,
was it 800 maybe?
I wanna say like $1,000.
Was it 1,000?
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was less than that. All right.
I support this. This is not something that you do and stop. This is gonna be an ongoing problem from us probably every year, so let's stay on top of it.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Wagonma,
Aye.
Wisdom,
Aye.
Feldman,
Aye.
Olshauser. Aye. Humbles,
Aye.
Smith. No. Tyra.
Aye.
Motion carried. Information regarding the Living Strategic Plan ELS proposal has been included in the board packet. I'm gonna make the motion to approve this because, when we voted on this before, I was on the, what they consider the winning side of the vote, which I voted no. But I am willing to move to approve this because I believe Dr. Dearman has made a very clear case to me regarding the use of his time. And as this board has discussed, we would like to focus on our facilities as stated in the strategic plan. And I think if we provide this opportunity for him, he can focus more on this strategic plan implementation of facilities and not necessarily writing the strategic plan implementation
I'll make
product.
2 quick statements in under 30 seconds. One, the admin team each year is given a goal, a district-level goal dictated by me. That goal this year is for them to be involved in either the creation, the implementation, or the monitoring of the strategic plan. Every administrator, that is a requirement, because it is a big undertaking. So they are not washing their hands of this, either am I. We're just not wanting to reinvent the wheel and have to start from scratch to build some of this. We want to use some of their templates. They're all going to be leaders. If you read the second attachment, page 7, it details it pretty well of what we need. So that's why I'm asking for this.
Okay, I made a motion to approve the ELS proposal as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra. Is there any further discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Feldman,
Aye.
Olshauser. Aye. Humbles,
Aye.
Smith. No. Tyra.
Aye.
Wagonma,
Aye.
Wisdom.
No.
Motion carried. Information regarding the solar option proposal has been included in the board packet. May I please have a motion to approve the solar option?
I'll move to approve solar option D, which is the high school and the 2 middle schools.
Is there a second?
Did you say E as in Edward?
D as in dog.
D as in dog, got it.
Those are the 2 big, or the 3 bigger buildings.
I second. Do you second?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mrs. Holzhauser. Any discussion?
Can I just ask Dr. Dearman to remind me of, is this the one that you had put out there as what you were looking for as well?
Correct. Start small as far as we don't want to do everything and then see how it goes. If it goes well, then we can potentially expand.
Thank you, sorry.
Yep, that's Dr. Adrian's recommendation as well.
Okay.
No worries. Anyone else have anything to say? All right. Roll call.
Question?
Oh, yes.
Do you
sir.
have any idea on timing of this?
And as soon as we approve this, they can start within a 2 week
next school year, so.
And thank you for being patient with us. I know we've asked you to ask for a lot of different options, but we appreciate that you are patient and, we'll maybe get started and get some savings there. Yeah. Motion carried. Oh, roll call vote.
Olshauser? Aye. Humbles?
Aye.
Smith? Aye. Tyra?
Aye.
Wackenbach?
Aye.
Wisdom?
Aye.
Feldman?
Motion carried. Information regarding the updated e-learning plan has been included in the board packet. May I have a motion to approve the updated e-learning plan?
I move to approve the updated e-learning plan.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Humbles?
Aye.
Smith? Aye. Tyra?
Aye.
Wackenbach?
Aye.
Wisdom?
Aye.
Feldman? Olshauser?
Aye. Motion carried. Information regarding the purchase of additional activity bus has been included in the board packet. Before I ask for a motion, can you quickly explain to the public?
This is the
Or maybe
public.
listening online.
I'll make
Why we're
it
doing
quick
this.
again. We usually buy 5 buses a year, and with supply chain issues, if you want them for next school year, you gotta order them now. In meeting with the admin team and dealing with some of the busing issues that we have, especially with extracurriculars, the recommendation was to get 3 activity buses, because anybody can drive those, and then 2 larger yellow buses. We happen to get lucky in that one of those activity buses is available right now through Central States. So that's why this is an action item to buy that one now, and the others are part of information to be approved next month.
Thank you, Dr. Dearman. May I have a motion to approve the purchase?
I do want to tell you that this will have a green stripe on it already, that it was one in the school had earmarked and had ordered, but then decided they didn't want it. So, that's why we're getting it now, getting a little bit better price on it, so it's Dunlap Valley. And it's not Dunlap Valley, but it will be green like that.
Dustin, what's it got now?
We can live with green.
I didn't want any equity issues with EMS.
As a former tornado, I can live with green.
I'll make that motion, Abby.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wisdom. Any more discussion?
Would you wanna also say that we get 64 to 80% kicked back from the
Yeah.
state?
Yeah, over there's a depreciation schedule, there's also, we get reimbursed by the state. We're supposed to get it at one level, but the reality is we get about 65% of that back. So
Oh.
we do get paid back some for the buses.
Very nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. Roll call vote, please.
Tyra?
Aye.
Wackenbach?
Aye.
Wisdom?
Aye.
Feldman?
Aye.
Olshauser?
Aye.
Humbles?
Aye.
Smith? Aye.
Motion carried. Yes, it is. This concludes the action items portion of the meeting. May I please have a motion to adjourn to closed session?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Wisdom. Could you read the whole litany of items there?
You got sucked into that, Mike. You're not supposed to go with that one.
Move to adjourn to closed session for the following purposes as stated in the Open Meetings Act. That's your job, isn't it?
He does the budget.
My literacy problems aren't that bad. The appointment, employment compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, student disciplinary cases, discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed, collective negotiating matters, security procedures, purchase or lease of real property, and litigation.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Olson.
My last time.
Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried, and it is 7:44.
6:40.
I'm sorry, 6:44. What's that?
You always done top one.
I didn't sign the budget.